to the Designated Drinker Show. I am Louise Solis, your host on the podcast that's raising the bar on craft cocktails. And with me, as always, is my friend, my very talented friend. If I am her Ben, she is my Jerry.
Unbelievable.
The Mixtress DC, Gina.
Thank you. I don't know how I feel about that intro. Let's go back to that Gidget thing. I'm like way into it.
So it'll make sense.
All right, let's do it.
Because this episode is going to be all about positive change and that how the actions you take can have such a ripple effect and can change the world. It's big and small all around you, and just you don't always realize it. And so to start off the show, I wanna give you a little quote from a genius. I think that maybe we lost a little too soon. Be the co-founder of Apple, and of course Steve Jobs. So he once said, "The ones who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones that do." It might be a little scary, but I think it's incredibly inspiring. And I think today's designated drinker is somebody who embodies that sentiment of thinking and acting differently. And the choices that he's made throughout his career have really formed and helped shape the spirit industry as it is today. So with no further ado, please help me welcome to the show the Global Advocacy Director of Bacardi, Jacob Briars.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you both for having me. It's been wonderful to be here at long last. So.
Yeah. It's great to have you here. So I know that sounds like a big intro.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to live up to that. A Steve Jobs quote is always, like it puts you on a plateau that you've got to try and live up to. So
it's an echelon you definitely belong.
We have your turtleneck right here. No, sorry.
But you've been such an instrument of positive change throughout your career. And I know you're going to be humble and say, no. But really, honestly, can you please just start at the beginning? Because everyone's going to realize that I'm not blowing smoke. Or at least prove it that I'm not.
Sure. I'll try to live up to it. No, I've been extremely lucky, obviously, through my career to meet great people, probably at the right times, who gave me great opportunities, and I've tried always to do the same. But I guess to wind it backwards, how did we end up here? It was a sort of a long road. You talk obviously about positive changes. Many of mine were perhaps less intentional changes than I just grabbed an opportunity that was in front of me. And it turned out to have, unexpected consequence and became an interesting pathway that, I took to its full extent and then chose another path. And all of a sudden you end up, having had a long and interesting journey.
Yeah.
But for me personally, I guess I'd always been interested in bars, restaurants, drinks. I grew up in the wine country in New Zealand.
That's cool.
And my first ever job was actually on a winery. At sort of 12 years old, just mowing the lawns and packing wine bottles in cases and that sort of thing. So
I think it's always cool when people start at such a small space. But again, it just goes back to the point that even the smallest things we do have ripple effects, and that you play. It may be a small piece of the puzzle, but you are definitely a piece of that puzzle. And I think sometimes we forget what kind of impact we can have.
Sure. Yeah, and I think, even from even younger age, actually, my parents tell me I used to, from 4 or 5, used to sort of like to play restaurant and set the table and deliver the plates and all these sorts of things. So hopefully they liked it at the time. It was like, hey, fine. Normally it takes years to house train a child like this. We've got them doing dishes and delivering plates. But
yes, it's totally legal in New Zealand.
I think I'd always been probably fascinated about the bar and restaurant world, but my decision to sort of end up within working in bars was it was both intentional and accidental. So I was at law school in Wellington in New Zealand, and most of my friends had a part-time job, and they hated every single job that they were doing. And it really also the times of, working in retail, working in, telemarketing, all of these sorts of the jobs you do to pay your way through college. And I was sort of looked at each of them and, they would take, 4 or 5 hours, 4 times a week. And it was having a big impact on their studies and just, none of them were particularly happy. So I looked around and said to myself, well, what's the job I can do that's going to have the least impact on my schedule? And I need to work about 20 hours a week to be able to pay for studies.
The most bang for your buck.
Right. And I found bar and restaurant work, I could do 2 shifts that would run to 10 to 12 hours a week. And, if I worked Friday and Saturday nights, I'd avoid the temptations of the weekend. And then my friends would come in and see me wherever I worked. And
pay you.
Right, exactly. So it was,
Instead of burning it.
Come see me tonight and give me all your money.
yeah, exactly. So, there was sort of, accidental, but also intentional. So my choice to find, a part-time job in the bar world was, kind of, in retrospect, you think you meet people who've had far more planning in that. But, I'd given it serious thought. And there was a bar that had just opened in Wellington, which was a cocktail bar called Matterhorn. And it was sort of the very first place that was doing, I guess the cocktails that bars in, London were doing. Or at least that's what we like to think that they were doing. There's a thing in New Zealand, I'm sure, you come from, you live in Hawaii. So, if you're in the islands and you're surrounded by water, you feel a lot of isolation. So sometimes it's nice to feel like you're connected to whatever's happening in the rest of the world. Anyway.
Yeah, in Hawaii, the connection is really with the West Coast.
Yeah. But you still feel like remote, right? And so we certainly felt, remote from everywhere else. And so, so anyway, so you wanted to sort of feel like you lived in a big city and this was a big city bar, or at least attempting to be that way. Anyway, they took one look at me and said, you have none of the experience required to work here. Go and get a job. And so I just walked around and was asking for bar jobs, see which ones I could get. And the only place that would take a chance on me was a sort of hybrid Irish-English pub. And it was St. Patrick's Day. And they said, if you can start today...
Oh, good God. Oh, my God.
If you could start today and you could survive St. Patrick's Day, then we've probably got a job for you. And it was the sort of place, that backpackers would come and work in for a couple of months. So it was pretty easy to very quickly, within a month, I was sort of the de facto manager. And, which was gave me an amazing understanding of how the bar and restaurant industry works. And so eventually I then went and worked at this cocktail bar that I'd sort of wanted to work at in the first place. And it was sort of a really amazing time. But again, unintentionally, it was sort of Wellington had turned into this kind of film capital. Lord of the Rings was being shot there at the time. And so the bar was busy every single night with people who were,
So you had hobbits coming in for drinks?
Yes, we did. We kept the bar very low, 3 feet high so that they could order whatever cider they needed.
And hobbits.
And so, and it was just, and again, when working there, I sort of gave myself the challenge, like, if I'm going to do this, then I'm going to be as good as I possibly can. So I started ordering the cocktail books and researching things online and trying to find, all the things we should know as bartenders, but didn't know because there was no previous generation to teach us, and sort of built out of sort of reasonably thriving, cocktail culture and won a few awards and those sorts of things. So it was great. And then
all the awards.
Yeah.
Well, this is New Zealand. There's only one. There's only one. And then
there's only one.
Yeah. And then it sort of just as I was starting to think, it's time to go back and do a more serious career. I had a sort of a monthly gig where I would go to the best liquor store in town. And they'd said to me, are you interested in coming and basically training consumers and how to make drinks? And so that was fascinating for me because it would enable me to deep dive into any particular spirit. So, vodka, tequila, mezcal, which had just started to arrive in the country. And I met the founder of I met him already, but, got a chance to properly connect with the founder of a vodka brand called 42 Below, which is based in Wellington. Jeff Ross, the owner, who is an absolutely visionary businessman, entrepreneur, and just had an ability to sort of find great people and set them on a pathway to doing great things. So,
cool.
He said to me, that was a fascinating evening. I spent 3 hours of trying to make vodka interesting and, selling the stock for the store. And he said, could you turn this into a program? And that was sort of the end of 2001. So start of 2002, I sort of joined in a part-time way as one of the first sort of global ambassador figures in the industry, going around, first around Australia, Southeast Asia, going to Singapore, Bangkok, those sorts of things.
Nowhere. Just little places like that.
Well, I mean, that feels like the sort of, like a sort of, it just feels like your backyard if you're from New Zealand. It's not quite the same as, going to London or New York.
I guess it would be like us going there because it's such a big ordeal.
Sure.
I could see
and
that.
So I sort of joined the company and became increasingly sort of full time. Sort of again without meaning to, but Jeff was a really visionary figure, and he was building a great team, and his aim was to create an iconic New Zealand brand and sell it all over the world. And so as a proud Kiwi, that was something that I was that really spoke to me, and so I basically started jumped on a plane and spent the next 6 years traveling around the world, educating tens of thousands of bartenders every year and building up, I think, sort of one of the first brand ambassador programs. Whichever market we launched, we'd try to hire a brand ambassador. And I think we were one of the first companies to really do brand ambassadors and brand education in a really big, sustained way.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, that kind of speaks to my background as a creative and being part of the advertising industry. When you build ambassadors, it really humanizes a brand and really helps the consumer connect with it.
Sure, I think it's really important because you and who's going to be, you want passionate advocates, whatever it is you do. Right?
Absolutely.
So ideally, they're the fans of your product or your spirits or your cocktails or of your bar. But if you can't find those,
or your small little podcast, same thing. Subscribe, review, download.
Exactly. And if you can't find those, then go off and hire people who have that passion and that enthusiasm and set them free, and they will do the work for you. And that's very much what we did.
Yeah.
So.
Wait, I have a question. Did you finish your law degree?
I did. Did, yeah.
Did you take the bar?
No.
So is that gonna be like your later life career thing? You'll be like start defending all the bartenders when we do everything wrong. You'll be like, all right, here, let me get that degree, let fully get barred and everything like that.
Yeah, no, I never did that. But it was always, and I think when we talk about sort of intentional versus accidental, I'd always said to myself, all right, this will be what I end up going back to, and never quite did that because there was always a really fun opportunity that was right in front of me. And so initially I said, I'll join 42 Below for sort of 2 years. My original aim had been to go, to work in politics. And so I thought to myself, well, working for a New Zealand company that wants to build itself on the world stage will be an interesting kind of thing to have experience to build. And so that was my primary motivation in joining 42 Below was to just have some experience in selling New Zealand on the world stage.
That's really cool. Following passions. I did the opposite, where I bartended through college so that I could make a buck, really. And you're right, you could work shorter hours, make more money, but really my passion was always going to be in advertising. Right. And that was where the divide happened for me, and you went the other side.
Yeah,
cool.
I think it's. Bartending is a sort of is a really fascinating career, and there was a piece in the New York Times a couple of weeks ago talking about the demise of the summer jobs, and in fact part-time jobs in general, because students in particular are just too busy now, and they've got to do all the things,
or they're just
all the things to build out the resume.
Millennial.
Yeah, but see, every generation has always said that. So
they got to wear pink. They're very busy.
Yeah, no, meaning
they need gold.
How many more sneakers they need to buy? You're right. It's a tough generation.
Totally the opposite view, which is that whichever generation is in front of us is usually working even harder than the previous generations. Just we can't see it, and so they're building out their CVs. I'm including me. Don't worry.
I have nieces in that millennial age.
I think we're in the bar world. We prefer the term vintage or age, matured. So we're a slightly more mature generation, which means we deserve a higher price. But anyway, you've got these students coming out and they're really trying to build out their resumes with the aim of getting it's competitive to get into college, and they're missing this opportunity to take the part-time job. And I think that actually is a terrible thing, because I genuinely believe that working in bars and restaurants, whether it's for a couple of years or a decade, builds out skills about how to deal with people from all backgrounds.
Service. Service is not an easy job. It's hard work, but it also builds character. You like you said, you meet people from all around the world, and I think it's
more than that.
It can build a great work ethic.
It's even more than that. You have to connect. Mm-hmm. You're a bartender, you want to make money, you have to connect.
Absolutely.
So when you walk into a room or a job interview or a new account, or you're in a boardroom meeting and you have no problem with that moment where there's 12 strangers, you just walk right in. You're like, hey everybody, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. It's night after night. Every seat as they turn, it's just another way of doing that. Literally, I don't know the way to describe it.
Yeah. I think it also makes you very adaptable. So one of the things about the hospitality industry is that the work broadly is the same every single day. So you can, the technical skills that people like Gina and great bartenders or waiters bring to the table broadly don't change, but every day is different.
Yeah.
So, you've got this kind of, framework of skills, and broadly what the day is going to be like, but you have no way of knowing what exactly that evening is going to be like when you walk through.
What tool you're going to have to pull out of that box.
Yeah, so it builds, adaptability, I think, to playing whatever is in front of you.
Yeah.
And that's a really great skill to build.
I totally agree.
So, speaking of skill,
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about we'll do national progression. You ready?
Right.
So Jacob is with 42 Below. 42 Below was acquired by...
Bacardi.
Okay, so now we'll bring in the Bacardi.
Fantastic.
So we're going to make a cocktail for you using Bacardi. And then you can start talking about the Bacardi thing as
Sure. Yeah.
So I've known Jacob a long time. So I know that he loves fresh everything, right? So this is not a man that you're gonna get away with anything that wasn't fresh, raw, some not produced, and if not cold syrup would probably be the best thing, and less sugar.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm very impressed.
So I have this little pineapple, right?
Beautiful.
And I have a nice little top, and then I poured out the pineapple, so we're gonna actually use it in the drink, because I wanted to make sure that it was really lovely. And we're gonna use about 2 tablespoons, I would guess. I'm dropping it everywhere, but
It's all right.
That's all right. We'll eat it later.
Yeah,
I do,
exactly.
right? So we're gonna put this in there, and then we'll take a little bit of mint, and we're gonna muddle it all together. And I went to this lovely, I don't know if we said it. We're in New Orleans.
Yes.
We're in New Orleans.
Fantastic.
And there is this lovely little raw place that I found, and they do raw juices, raw food. Everything is organic and beautiful. So we're gonna actually use coconut meal,
Wow.
coconut milk, a little bit of cayenne and turmeric.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah, pressed this morning for you.
Wow, that's incredible.
But I just traveled here, so I was not going to be able to do that for you. So this is kind of interesting. So if you're at home, you can go to your local stores. You can get fresh pressed juice. You don't have to go to aisle 3 in the grocery store and buy something that looks like the fruit that is self-sustainable until the end of time.
Okay.
So it's not that hard, right? So you're going to take that pineapple. You're going to muddle it, put a little mint, about 2 to 3 leaves. And now we are going to add our Bacardi, and we're going to actually kind of gotten into session cocktails.
Yes.
So it's a little less alcohol, especially when you're going to deal with hotter months.
While we're here in New Orleans, where it's a little swampy.
We're going to use about 1 1/4 ounces of Bacardi light rum.
Great.
And we're going to actually use more of the mix. And this is what it turned out to be. And it's really, really pretty. And I can give you a little sip just so you can taste it, so you kind of envision what's going to happen.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah. It's kind of nice.
And what is in this again, Gina?
So it's raw coconut, the meal.
Wow.
And then
Wow.
and then it's a little bit of cayenne, turmeric, and we're gonna put that in there. We're gonna actually put 4 ounces. So you're gonna make up the difference in your cocktail using the fresh juice instead of using, more alcohol. And do I love a stiff drink? I do. But if I'm gonna have more than, I would like to say, 4, it's better to do it over a course of time than try to stack it all together in one foul swoop. We're gonna take a little bit of ginger syrup, which we did make in DC, so let's travel with us on the plane. And we're only gonna use...
It was the altitude makes it change.
Of course. Yeah.
it makes it better. It's pressurized now? No. So...
And the turbulence.
And then I lost... There we go. Lime. And just about a little half an ounce of lime juice.
Incredible.
Did I measure it? I did not measure it.
Great. That's okay. I'm fine. I'm a retired bartender now, so I'm not going to judge you on how exact things are.
I didn't exact it, but exactly it should be good.
A good healthy squeeze.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Or terrible. I don't know. No. So we're going to put a little cap on there.
Amazing.
We're not going to do 2 ounces. I'm not going to ruin it.
To Gina's point, we are at the Napoleon House here in the French Quarter. They're hosting us yet again. Ralph has always been so nice to us. The Brennans is a great family.
And this is obviously an incredible city where, probably the only city I think, certainly in the United States, possibly anywhere, where like cocktails are the most important drink.
Yeah.
I think in most, you go to Europe and people are like, oh, I like cocktails, but you can tell they'd rather be drinking wine.
Or beer.
Or feel more naturally at home.
Yeah.
And I think New Orleans is really why, it's such an incredible city is this is the place where cocktails are what everybody comes here to drink.
Yes, absolutely.
It's part of my reach. It is a reach.
Cool. These are amazing.
Yes.
Fun little coconut mugs.
Great.
And you can buy these online if you want from Cocktail Kingdom. So they're kind of lovely.
So if we didn't have those, if the listener didn't have like a ceramic coconut.
So I would honestly, a fresh coconut, you can buy them in your store. They're usually like white skin. It's really nice. You want to use a real one, you can put it in a rocks glass. You don't have to do it. I actually have cubed ice in here. So I'm going to finish it off with a few more little ice cubes. I did not do crushed ice. Just so this drink doesn't need it.
Right.
It's gonna have enough water dilution, so let's stay with something a little bit bigger. And we just did the fun factor on it.
Nice.
Amazing.
Maybe that one's a little too much. Anyway.
Just shake your coconut.
Let's just finish off the drink.
Okay.
So we're gonna put that in there.
Cute.
Great.
And then always a snack. There's always a snack involved, right? So we just have a little dehydrated pineapple, so it's got a crunch.
Delicious and beautiful.
All right, let's now.
Like Gina.
Yeah, exactly. You always put so much work into your, and thank you for not choosing a plastic straw. I'm even more impressed by that.
Always, never.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Cheers.
Fantastic. Cheers. Lovely.
Yeah, I noticed I don't drink the drinks, so if it sucks, it's too bad. No,
It's delicious.
Oh, that's really good.
It's fantastic. Thank you. It's much more refreshing than like when you get that lineup of ingredients. You think to yourself, I wonder if it's going to be quite sweet. But the fresh coconut and the fresh pineapple just make it really crisp and light.
I'm terrified, right? Because he's going to go home and be like, oh my God, worst drink I've ever had. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
It's really lovely. You're right, that savoriness. Oh, I lost my pineapple inside my coconut.
It's okay.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Bacardi, how you got there.
Yes, tell us what's going on with Bacardi and all the
Sure.
Now we can sip and drink.
Yes. Sip and talk.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess in 2012, I joined Bacardi. They'd bought 42 Below, which was the company I worked for. Then I went off, left 42 Below and went to work for, set up a bar in New Zealand, which went reasonably well, and then went to work for a company called Le Blond Cachaça, which Bacardi also acquired. So then they came to me and said, look, we've got a small group of great brand ambassadors, and we're doing some cool things, but we really feel like we can do more. And so in terms of, I guess education and just, just trying to think globally, if you like, about where the industry was going. So it was an amazing opportunity, and I was very, very lucky that, they came to me. And it's been 6 years, which has been insane. I don't think I would ever have thought it would last that long, or that there would just be always more things to do.
Yeah.
But so we're very lucky. We've started with a group of around 65 brand ambassadors, and we now have over 200 all over the world.
Wow.
Part-time, full-time, doing, and I'm really, it's not just the numbers, right? Because the effectiveness, I think, is what they're actually doing. So, wherever they're, Nairobi or in, Melbourne, Australia, or New York, or wherever they are, they're providing education to bartenders and to cocktail drinkers who often aren't getting the education that they need.
Yeah.
And so I think that impact that we're able to leave, particularly, it's exciting to have a great team in London and a great team in New York, and we do, but those bartenders are not exactly underserved. Yeah. It's the people who are working in, in Manila in the Philippines and in Nairobi and Kenya that are, providing, we've got two amazing guys in South Africa who are, working with, I guess, underprivileged youth who have got the opportunity to really kind of make a life for themselves through coming into bartending. And so for me, that's the stuff that's really exciting.
Yeah, helping people build a profession and a career.
Yeah. And it's exactly the same message as we would, do and give and the same kinds of training that we would offer, if they lived in, New York or Miami. Sure. But for them, it doesn't take us much work to be able to, to scale that up to include even more people.
That's awesome.
And so that's the stuff I think that is really, really exciting.
Those are the changes that I was saying. That you
Sure.
just big ripples. Those are bigger ripples. And
Yeah, we have
I
a truly amazing team of brand ambassadors that I think do some extraordinary work, and they're just I'm very lucky to get to work with them every single day because they just bring so much excitement and energy to trying to make people fall in love with spirits, obviously with our spirits, but also, spirits and cocktails in general, which I've, fundamentally believe that it's cocktails that will drive the whole industry forward.
Yeah.
The more cocktails you drink, the less you're going to end up drinking in terms of total units of alcohol.
Oh, interesting.
Because, well, generally speaking, we're seeing a decline in the amount of in the total amount of alcohol that people are drinking all over the world. And that's good news, right? But what's actually declining is just those drinks that you don't think about. So it's the fifth beer, right? Or the fourth glass of wine. Or, people are saying, actually, what, after 2 drinks, maybe I'll have 2 drinks tonight. And I guess your options are, do you want to have 2 of the same beer, or would you rather have 2 of Gina's cocktails if you've got 2 drinks to drink?
That's an easy answer for me.
Exactly.
That's why I like the sessionable cocktails. I'm starting to really, because you can spend your time out, you go to the cocktail bar, and it's not like it's in your face. Now, do I love a Negroni? I love Negronis, but it's fully loaded.
Sure.
Especially if you do like a rye Negroni or something like that, or an overproofed. And I think they're delicious, but they're very smooth and they go down very quickly, and it's very easy to miss the mark of where you are.
Yeah.
And then you have to. There's a responsibility to this. There's a responsibility as a bartender, as there are many people in our industry that are really pushing forward to what people are doing and how your behavior is, and what it is, and taking and the connotation away from what people presume the bartender to be, the party animal, crazy person, blah, 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 right? So it's a profession and you should act accordingly. I mean, you are responsible for your guests as well, because if you watch them start downing 4 and 5 martinis, maybe that's when you turn to them and you go, oh my gosh, you want to try this really cool blueberry soda I made? And they're probably going to tell you no, but they're going to give it to them anyway. You know what I mean? Responsible for your guests, responsible for the bar, and then yourself. And I think it starts, and I met Jacob when I was just really starting out in the cocktail business. And Jacob was hosting amazing cocktail competitions that we all wanted to get into. Yeah. We wanted to bungee jump and make cocktails in the air.
Yeah. Jump out of helicopters into snow piles.
Or pick a song and DJ to your song, your music. I mean, there was amazing competitions and stuff, right? And but they always set the bar well, you did this and that's great and we had a great time. Now it's time to go home. Or if we went to, when we went to Miami, it's time to go home. We went out, we had a good time, we went home. And then you know what? It's okay to go home.
Yeah, I think the biggest change for people has been to realize that actually there's a career that you can make out of the drinks industry and out of making cocktails or the wider. I don't really make cocktails anymore except at home, but in the wider industry. But if you're going to do that, you have to take care of yourself. Yeah. And so I think that's been and what's been really positive in both the industry and I think in culture in the United States and in Europe has been this realization. Hey, we should make sure that people know what they're consuming, and I think that's a flow-on effect of food in general. Is drinks ultimately are a food product. Yep. And so we should know how strong are they, how much sugar do they have, and what's going to be the effect on me if I have this. Yeah. I think it also flows into the effect of, great bartenders should make really intentional drinks, right? So like you say, people used to have 4 or 5 martinis. If they're now going to have 1 or 2, let's make that the best possible.
Best damn martini
ever.
Yeah. And charge them accordingly. Yeah. Right? So bars and restaurants should also be able to, find a business model that allows them to survive and be paid for that. But also their drink should be as good as you can possibly make it and made with as much care and the attention to details that, Gina puts into her drinks.
Absolutely.
And then that's going to make people say, well, okay, I'm really glad that I had this rather than some bland lager that I could also have chosen to have as my drink for the afternoon. Yeah.
Well, speaking of fresh ingredients, just in case you've missed anything that Gina shared with you on how to make this cocktail, or any other cocktail for that matter, just head on over to designateddrinker.show. That's designateddrinker.show, and she'll have everything for you on this recipe and all of her other recipes in the past.
And this one is worth making. This is really good. It's fantastic.
Yes, absolutely. So, Gina.
Don't do it. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, call it.
You all right?
Yeah.
You want to know what time it is? Closing time.
It's closing time. Well, that's right. I guess that's the designated part of being the designated drinker.
And so, Jacob, you don't have to go home, but you have to get the hell out of here.
I love it. Fantastic. Thank you both for having me on the show.
Thank you, Jacob.
Really, and thank you for this beautiful, thoughtful drink.
Always.
Let's go out on the lanai and finish them.
Fantastic. Thank you.